Next example we will look at is another mini case. This will again illustrate some spreadsheet engineering principles. I would also like to use this example to tell you a little bit about the NPV function, net present value function. Like the previous example, the first thing I do in a problem like this is first sit down and figure out what the input parameters are and what output I'm looking for. Then, if I have time, I create an influence diagram to examine the flow from inputs to outputs. In this particular example here, I have identified all my inputs, the non-refundable deposit that I was given, the purchasing price I'm going to pay, the rental income, the operating expenses, the selling price at the end of the 10th year. The goal in this model is to look at the cash flow in and the cash flow out for each of the next 10 years, figure out the net cash flow, and come up with the net present value. Now in year 0, I will have no money coming in, but I will be paying out the purchasing price. In year 1, my income is going to be the rental income, which is $350,000 times the occupancy rate. I'd like to copy this all the way down to year 9, so I'm going to make sure that these are absolute referenced. And then I copy them all the way down to year 9. And in year 10, I'm going to have the rental income, and I'm going to have an additional cash inflow from the selling price. So 0 for the first year, the same cash flow coming in from year 1 to year 9, and year 10 I have the selling price added to it. In cash out, year 0 is including the purchase price, and year 1 through 10 is going to have the maintenance and the operating expenses. And as you can see, I had a little bit of a problem here because I forgot to use the absolute referencing. I highlight my formula in H4, push F4 function key. That gives me my absolute references, and then I copy paste it all the way down. Now that I have the inflow and the outflow each year, my net cash flow is going to be in minus out, and I copy paste it all the way down. Now I know how much money is coming in every year or going out in some years, but these are not discounted by using the interest rate. If you can imagine, $350,000 in year 8 and $350,000 in year 7 are not the same to me from an investment perspective, because the money I had in year 7 I could have invested in something and I could have made more money in year 8 using this 8.5 interest rate. So I need to discount these using the NPV function and find the present value of these 11 years worth of cash flow. So here's how the NPV function works. So we type NPV, it asks us a rate and a value. Let's go ahead and call the function wizard. It says, what rate are you dealing with? Well, we're dealing with C11, 8.5%. Again, note that I'm not entering 8.5 as a number there because I want my spreadsheet to be flexible. And which values do you need to be discounted, it says. Now, I need to make sure that I do not enter the cash flow in year 0. The net present value will start discounting from the first value, and I do not want discounting in year 0 because that's the present. I'd like the discounting to start from year 1 through year 10, so that's why I'm choosing I4 through I13. I hit OK. Now this gives me the net present value of all the cash flow from year 1 to year 10, but then I need to include what happens in year 0 as well, so I'm going to add to this the cash flow from year 0. So in this particular scenario, I could see that with a 3.5 million purchasing price and a 4.5 million selling price, and the given rental income and maintenance expenses scenario, assuming 100% occupancy rate, my net present value is positive. In a net present value calculation, if your net present value turns out to be positive, this means this is an investment that's worth taking. If the net present value is negative, then you should not do this investment. Again, now that we are done with the model, let's go ahead and review our spreadsheet engineering principles. Let's see if we have been efficient and effective. I modularize again. Inputs are all in one place. Calculations are in one place. The output is in one place. I parameterize everything. Parameters are in one location. I never hard-coded any of these numbers into my formulas. I made sure that I use some visual cues, bold faces and labels. I also use blue color for all the inputs, orange color for my output, and try to make it as visually pleasing as possible by using some blank space and so on.